What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers. DJ Bucky with you on a Thanksgiving week. This is episode 2 of 2 for the week. This is going to be it for us, Buck. So we've got a lot of ground we need to cover. But first of all, happy Thanksgiving to you. And as we say to each other every year on this week, very thankful for you. Very thankful for your friendship, for your partnership on everything that we do. Very blessed, very fortunate. 20 years, man. I was doing this math. I was thinking about when I got into the league because you were ahead of me. But this is 20-year friendship that we have going here. That's pretty good, man.
That is pretty good, DJ. So it's really crazy. So in saying thank you back, like Thanksgiving, is really remarkable, like our growth. And I know people think, hey, we do podcasts together, so naturally we spend a lot of time and talk together, and we do. But I think the friendship part of the podcast has probably been the best thing. I think being able to randomly pick up the phone and talk about a bunch of different things, whether it's football related or life related, has been cool. And, at a time where you don't see partnerships go 20 years and however long we've been doing the podcast, it's a long time. I don't know all the years or whatever, but it has been kind of cool that we've seen each other grow, not only personally, but we've seen our kids have milestone accomplishments and those things. And so it's great. And so when we're in a season of giving thanks and making sure that you're always gracious for the blessings that you have, I'm certainly grateful for you and all the people behind the scenes, but for you and I to be able to build and continue to build great things together.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, it's a pretty blessed life that we lead, to be able to cover football, talk about football with your buddies, and work with great people that we really love being around. So really, really thankful. Want to get that out of the way here at the top because I think it's important that everybody have an attitude of gratitude during this time of the year. Let's start at the game we just saw in Mexico City, a 49ers destruction of the Arizona Cardinals. I'll just tee it up for first impressions. What jumped out to you about this game?
The San Francisco 49ers are a complete team. And if the San Francisco 49ers are right and healthy, they're going to be one of the teams that we talk about in the Final Four. DJ, we've talked about building your team to be a Super Bowl contender and the key components that you have to have. We talked about being able to rush the passer, which the Niners are able to do. Being able to run the football, which you're able to do because you can control the game. But then having the playmakers that can give you the explosive plays that you need to have to win these big games. Well, the San Francisco 49ers have all of that. And I don't care what their record is. I don't care that they're sitting at 6-4 and all that right now. When you look at this team and you look at the way that they completely tore apart the Arizona Cardinals, you can't tell me that this team doesn't have the makings of being a title contender. They are built to play the right way. They can ratchet up the physicality when they need it. They have shown the ability to really throw the ball with Jimmy Garoppolo. And then they have a variety of X factors that can take over the game. Whether it's George Kittle in the passing game, Deebo Samuel as a hybrid player, whether it's Christian McCaffrey being able to do things in a multiple fashion as a runner and receiver. They have the ability to hit you in so many different ways, and they're built to be a physical team, which I think is very important when we think about the postseason.
Yeah, I think about their skill position players, and I think about a 4x100 relay, and I think about Jimmy Garoppolo running the first leg, except he only has to run about, I don't know, maybe 20 meters, maybe, and then just hand the thing off, because the run after catch that you get with all these skill guys is ridiculous. You saw it with Kittle on some scrambles. You know what Deebo can do. We've seen him as a tackle breaker. He's an absolute nightmare. Then you get down in the red zone, and you're seeing Ayuk and his length, his ability to go make plays with his length and quickness, that combination that he possesses. So you've got so many different weapons and so many different ways to win offensively. McCaffrey, with his versatility, just adds so much to an already versatile unit. And when you go back and watch their explosives in this game, you'll see toss outside because you've got a fullback in Juszczyk who can get out there and is outstanding as a lead blocker. You get a reverse to Deebo, which results in a touchdown. Then you have another back in Elijah Mitchell, who everybody kind of forgets about, who's a really good player. They get to the perimeter with this run game, and they're really good at blocking out there, and they're excellent in space to make guys miss. And then when you look at some of the explosive passes, you get a crosser to Deebo, you get some scrambles, you get one to Kittle, then you get a boot to Kittle. And Kittle, again, when you kind of slot the batting order, that's what we talk about all the time on here. When you bring in other players, it now moves the lineup a little bit down, and you end up with a deeper lineup. Attention doesn't get focused on a George Kittle now because of all the other dynamic weapons you have on this offense. And then Next thing you know, it's a George Kittle type game. So it's a very dangerous team offensively and defensively. You mentioned it. They can rush the quarterback, and when Nick Bosa is healthy on the field, that's the one guy I want to say, keep him in bubble wrap. They need Nick Bosa for this defense to be what it needs to be. Just keep him healthy for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, I think health is everything when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers because Nick Bosa is a key part of their pass rush and the way they play on defense. I just love watching this team play because the thing that stands out to me is just the level of unselfishness that you see on this team on both sides of the ball. Offensively, no one really cares who touches the ball or how they get it. As you talked about it, sometimes it's George Kittle's day, the next day it may be CMC's day, the next day it could be Deebo Samuel's day. But because they all are dangerous individually, they're scary collectively. And then defensively, D'Amico Ryans does a really good job because this is a scheme that was really predicated on a four-man rush. And they do lean on the four-man rush. But he also sprinkles in some pressure. He diversifies the coverage. He gives you a lot of things to think about. But it appears to be very simple so the guys can play fast. And you just think about the pedigree that this team has and the confidence that they have, particularly when Jimmy Garoppolo is in the huddle. This is a team that feels like they're Super Bowl caliber. And in an NFC that's been a little up and down, I mean, look, I wouldn't want to play them in the postseason because I think they play a style that really tests your discipline and your courage and your physicality. This is a very difficult team to contend. And remember, they were in overtime away from going to the Super Bowl last year. It's a better version of the team this year.
Yeah, what do you think on the Cardinals side of things? This is Colt McCoy pulling up the numbers here, 24 of 34 for 218, no touchdowns, a pick. It's a pass rush that generated 0 sacks. There's not really a dynamic runner. When you look at the combination there of James Conner and Keontae Ingram, both guys physical, both guys run hard, but you don't really have any juice there in the backfield. Kyler Murray, you kind of got a glimpse to me. I know Colt McCoy can be efficient, and some people really jump on the Colt McCoy bandwagon, but I think the more you see of him, the longer he plays, the more you're going to end up missing the dynamic stuff that Kyler Murray brings to the table, Buck.
Yeah, I think that certainly ended that narrative about, hey, maybe Colt McCoy should be their starting quarterback. Here's what I see from the Arizona Cardinals, and it kind of boggles my mind. To me, I think they're very pedestrian on offense. There's not really the kind of creativity that you would expect from an offense. You don't see a lot of motions and shifts and creative things designed to get their best players one-on-one in favorable positions. A lot of it is when you take Kyler Murray out, it's a lot of throw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins over and over and over again. And so what I worry about this team is, have they plateaued? Have we seen the best of what the Cardinals can be in this version of what it is that they have? Because I don't know how you change what you're doing without making wholesale changes. Offensive philosophy, personnel, all these other things. And so I'm kind of stuck because I kind of feel like they're just in a quagmire. They're just stuck and they can't go anywhere. And this is a team, I think in the last 17 games, maybe they're 5-12. And so there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. And so now, where does Clint Kingsbury go to get the answers? How can he change? Because it's kind of been like this for the last 3 years. They're just kind of the same. There's not a lot of dynamic stuff to what the Cardinals do.
So you used the word that I already wrote down. This is why we share a brain. This is the word dynamic. So you can be a good offense a couple different ways, right? You can be a simple offense with dynamic athletes, or you can be a dynamic offense with simple athletes. You cannot be a simple offense with simple athletes. And I think that's exactly what we have here with the Arizona Cardinals right now. They need some more juice. They need some more dynamic dudes to throw in that mix and make things work. Because like you mentioned, it is a static, it is a simple offense. This goes all the way back to the roots of the air raid there with Mike Leach, where it's line up and go. You're going to play certain rules, and you're going to make things simple. You're going to be able to play fast, and you're going to be able to go. To me, Buck, this is they don't have enough creativity to offset the fact they don't have enough dynamic type players in this group. So that's where I find them right now, which is a place you don't really want to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's really hard, man. It's hard to see. And DeAndre Hopkins is a great player, but he's not what I call a dynamic juice player. He's not a speedster. He's not an explosive playmaker based on his ability to make catch and run throws. Outstanding ball skills. Wins the 50-50 balls. But I feel like everything for him is such a hard play. And so sometimes what you would like to see is the coach make the game easy for your best players. Motion, stacks, shifts, bunches, backfield motion to get out and create one-on-ones. They don't do much of that. And then the other weapons on the perimeter, they're fine, but they're still not dynamic when you look at some of the elite offenses around the league. And so I don't know where this team goes, because normally if you're static like that, then you always typically can lean on your run game, because the running game brings the ability to change coverage, dictate the terms to the defense, but they're not quite there in that regard. So I don't know, man. I just feel like it's a team that is broken, particularly on offense. Defensively, I think Vance Joseph does some creative stuff. They gave up too many points last night, but they have the ability to kind of come after it. But I feel like they still are short when it comes to their personnel. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this team in the offseason. I feel like they kind of need to tear it down a little bit and try and rebuild a bigger and better product on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, as we wrap it up on this game, I mean, the 49ers, 28 runs for a $159, averaging 5.7 on the ground. Only 20 completions for 228 yards, but 4 touchdowns, no picks. A clean, turnover-free game there from Jimmy Garoppolo. That's their formula. That's as good as it gets, and that plays well into the postseason. So a good night for the 49ers there in Mexico City, and hats off to Mexico City. Awesome atmosphere, a really fun game to watch there. They put on a good show for the crowd. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back, we're going to preview the big 3 Thanksgiving Day games. A pretty good slate this year. We'll dive into those right after this. All right, it's time to show your good side, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers. A great slate of Thanksgiving games. We've got a triple header, Buck. Some years, it's a little more appealing, I should say, to take that nap on the couch after lunch. This year, I feel like we got some good games, man. I'm fired up about this. Let's jump into them. Start with the first one here. Get your thoughts. Bills-Lions, a 7-3 Bills team. Coming off a nice win. The Lions with a big shocker there with their win this past week. They're 4-6. They're kind of creeping towards 500 and playing good football. They're at home, as always, here on Thanksgiving. What are you looking for?
This should be a fun game. It should be a fun game because now I'm the Buffalo Bills. Did we just leave our equipment in Detroit because we played there on Sunday? Did we have to take it all the way back to Buffalo, didn't bring it back because it was a short week? I wonder about that. This game is interesting because if you look at the Lions on paper, defensively, they've really, really struggled. Like, this is a team that has struggled against the pass, have had a tough time keeping people out of the end zone. And when you look at the Buffalo Bills, one of the more dynamic offenses that you will face, big-time quarterback in Josh Allen. And so the key will be, how can you disrupt the timing and the rhythm of the Buffalo Bills passing game? And how are you going to be able to keep the ball from flying over the top of the defense? So a lot of the pressure to me goes to Aiden Hutchinson. The rookie's been sensational since coming in from Michigan. He's been everything that they've wanted. Can he have a monster game on a big stage to maybe change and disrupt the timing of the pass game and maybe force Josh Allen to turn the ball over?
Yeah, I want to go back on that point here. I don't know why we talked about it, but everybody, the Lions fans early in the season, and maybe just some NFL fans in general, were down on Aiden Hutchinson. And then you look up, the dude's been making plays like crazy, especially as we talked about since they started standing him up. He's got 2 picks this year. He's got 5.5 sacks. You see him diving on a fumble right here. He's been all around the ball. They don't have another pass rusher, so you know he's going to get attention right now. He's leading the team in sacks. So to me, you have to be fired up if you're the Lions about what you have and knowing you can continue to build around him in this next draft and as you go forward here. So fired up about him. Kirby Joseph, another rookie for them, playing great. He leads the team with 3 interceptions. He's been a good find for him. So some good young players there. And then when I flip it over to the other side, remember the last time we saw Aiden Hutchinson was against Georgia, right? And that was James Cook in that game who put on a show against Michigan. They get to see each other again here for the first time since that game. James Cook showing us some things last week. I think this Buffalo team, as you come down the stretch, Buck, I think they need to kind of find that another guy, another person to put in the mix for them offensively. I think James Cook can be that guy.
Look, he started to show some of that promise against the Cleveland Browns last weekend. When you had an opportunity to watch him, you saw him come downhill. You saw him get to the next level. He's always been a factor in the passing game. But this is a Buffalo Bills team that needs someone else to be able to do some of the heavy lifting in the running game. Part of why I think Josh Allen struggles at times is because he has so much on him. He's the top runner. He's the big-time playmaker. He has to make all the passes. That is a lot for a quarterback to kind of handle over the course of a long season, 17 games and all the other stuff. And so now if you can get someone else to just do some of the stuff in the ground game, now he's able to really focus on being the big-time playmaker in the passing game while just being an occasional flasher in the run game. That's where I think Allen is at his best. And then the other part is the Buffalo Bills getting back on track on defense. You know, this is a team that plays a team defense. I don't think they're really a collection of stars, even though Von Miller has given them some star quality. This is a team that plays best when all 11 is operating as one. They get back to that. Then we can talk about the Buffalo Bills in the conversation like we've talked about them early in the year as one of the best teams, if not the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, Buffalo's still a little bit beat up on the defensive side of the ball, so see how long it takes to get those guys back. But find ways to win. That's all you got to do here if you're Buffalo. Let's go to the next one here. New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys. What do you think?
So this is funny because this game is going to be a tough one. The Giants laid an egg against the Detroit Lions. And so anytime you see a team do that, normally they come back and play a great game the following week. Saquon Barkley, limited, didn't have a lot of opportunities to touch the rock. And then when he did touch the rock, he couldn't find any room. The Achilles heel for the Dallas Cowboys has been the running game. The New York Giants have been one of the more patient and committed running teams in football. This, to me, comes down to whether Saquon Barkley can get over that magic number, 100 yards. If he gets over 100 yards, then the Giants are having the game played the way that they want to play, and it takes pressure off Daniel Jones. To me, this is a game where it's about the offensive line and Saquon Barkley. Are they able to impose their will on the Dallas Cowboys defense?
Yeah, and look, if they can't run the football, I don't really see how they're going to compete in this game. I know the Giants enter this contest 7-3, but I thought you saw last week when they didn't have a ton of run game, when it was Daniel Jones based with the 7 carries for 50 yards, Saquon 15 for 22. When they don't have that run game, and now Wan'Dale Robinson coming off his best game of the year, 9 for 100. He's out for the rest of the season with an ACL. I just don't know where they're going to throw the football. So to me, you have to run the ball not only because that's your best offensive weapon, but also kind of play a little bit of keep away. I think this Giants defense, I think they've got a chance to try and keep them in the game, but they can't turn it over, and they've got to run the football, Buck. I think that's the only chance the Giants have in this one.
Yeah, it has to be a game where they're able to run it and control it. I would say their saving grace might be Wink Martindale's defense and what they can do to muddy the picture for the quarterback and how they can suffocate the running game. As much as I love Dak Prescott and those things, he's coming off a solid game, but there have been some questions about his ability to kind of get back on track. And so if I am the Giants, I want to make sure I take away Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, take away the crutches, and force Dak Prescott to make enough plays in the passing game to win. I would feel good about my matchups on the outside. Feel like we should be able to contain CeeDee Lamb, force Dak Prescott to lean on one of the others. Not Tony Pollard, not Ezekiel Elliott, not CeeDee Lamb. Make somebody outside of those three guys win the game. If they do that, you go walk across the field, you shake their hand, give them credit for having a great plan on that day. But more times than not, if you can take away those big three, it'll be very, very difficult for the Cowboys to move the ball and win.
We were just talking about Aiden Hutchinson and the 5.5 sacks, the 2 interceptions, all the plays he's made for the Detroit Lions. Kayvon Thibodeau's played 8 games, Buck. He's got 1 sack. I know sack's not the be-all, end-all number, but you need more from him. He was drafted to give you some juice off the edge to complement Big Dexter, and that hasn't happened. So maybe this is the game where he has his coming out party here against the Dallas Cowboys. All right, the third game, and I think maybe the most intriguing game, based off what happened last week, New England and Minnesota. To be honest, neither offense did anything last week for these two teams. The New England defense and their special teams end up winning them the game over the Jets. The Minnesota was just a clunker all the way around, offense, defense. They couldn't do anything in that ball game. But they're back home. They've got a chance now against the Patriots to see if they can get back on track. What do you think?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's an interesting one because everyone knows how tough the New England Patriots defense can be. Bill Belichick is a masterful schemer, and he's a great, what I call, tactician when it comes to how they want to play the game out. So first thing I want to see is how are they going to defend Justin Jefferson? I believe he evaluates the Minnesota Vikings and says Justin Jefferson is the one guy that we have to keep under wraps because we know he can beat us by himself. So how do they double team him? How do they take him away? Or do they put their number one corner on him? The second thing is, what is he going to do to keep Dalvin Cook in check? Because if you don't allow Justin Jefferson to get free in the passing game and you can contain the running game, it makes it very, very difficult for the Minnesota Vikings to move the football. So how are they going to be able to use some of those +1 stunts while still maintaining double coverage on Jefferson to make sure he doesn't have a big day?
If you take out the Chicago Bears game, and that's, when you factor in Justin Fields and his athleticism and the stress that he can put on a defense with his legs, how unique that offense is to play against, they were able to just to get after the New England Patriots, and they blew the doors off them 33-14. If you take out that game, you go back and look since October 9th, here's what their defense has done. Against Detroit, they pitched a shutout, no points allowed. Cleveland, 15 points. The Jets in the first meeting, 17 points. The Colts, 3 points. The Jets, 3 points. I mean, they've got 2 3-point games and a shutout amongst those last few games there. Their defense is dialed in. They don't give you things. You've got to earn everything, and Kirk Cousins has got to be patient, and they better block Matt Judon because he has been a problem, and he has especially been a problem over the last month.
He has been a problem. And they got some other guys. Josh Uche has shown up and flashed at times. They just do a great job of playing team defense, but Judon has certainly been the guy that has emerged as their best defender. And so Belichick is different because as much as we talk about rush and coverage and how you got to have the pass rush, he does it a little differently because he puts the emphasis on the coverage more so than the rush. But he's been very creative with how he has deployed Matthew Judon to get that pass rusher. I mean, you're talking about Judon sitting with a ton of sacks, being able to really impact the game in a variety of different ways. It is all because Bill Belichick is in his bag, and I'm sure he's going to be in his bag against one of his former players, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is going to have to be really dialed in as a play caller to help his quarterback, Kirk Cousins, find some success against this defense.
Yeah, I remember we both scouted Kevin coming out of San Diego State and he gets drafted by the New England Patriots there. So familiarity definitely between both those guys. Matt Judon, by the way, 13 sacks, leads the National Football League. He has been an incredible player there for the New England Patriots. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to flip the page here. We're going to look at college football. Off an incredible weekend last weekend with some fun games. We're going to look forward to what this college football playoff could look like, including a real humdinger of a ball game coming up between Ohio State and Michigan.
NFL Plus is here, which means no matter where you are, this is how you football. With NFL Plus, watch live, local, and primetime games on mobile and listen to live game audio now through Super Bowl 57. Sign up for the rest of the season with a special offer of $19.99 by going to plus.nfl.com and sign up now. So DJ, this is our favorite time of year. We're now getting close to the end of college football season, but the end of college football season brings us to the playoffs. And we love postseason play in any realm, be it pro, be it college, but the CFP is very interesting. And so I know you like to figure out how are the top teams up in the mix. And one of the things that we've always talked about, offensive and defensive lines are the foundation for success for all teams, for football at every level. So tell me what you've been digging into. Talk about the offensive and defensive lines that you like in college and how that might be related to the teams that we see in the college football playoff field.
Well, I think it's pretty interesting when you look at it in these top teams. Most of them have a pretty good defensive line, and most of them get good quarterback play. There are a couple exceptions in there, but that's kind of how you win in college football. Even offensive line-wise, you're able to navigate around it. You've seen teams like Clemson who haven't had big-time offensive linemen be really, really good competitive teams throughout the years. Some of these other teams, they can compete when they're not necessarily playing with the elite offensive linemen. But you better have some big-time defensive linemen. You better have a quarterback that can get things done. So I think that's kind of an interesting trait that a lot of these teams share. And not necessarily saying they're NFL, big-time NFL quarterbacks. Georgia's a great example. They have a dominant front. The defense, really, at all three levels, they have players. But when you look at what they do then offensively, look, Stetson Bennett's just a playmaker. He creates, he makes things happen. He's a really good college quarterback. I don't know, exactly where he finds a role at the next level, but that formula works. I'm looking forward this week, Ohio State, Michigan, that ball game, because when you think about Michigan, how they've kind of built their roster, they've built their roster as a line of scrimmage roster. So that is it's a good matchup with Ohio State. I think they can match up with them in the trenches, try and run the football, be physical, shorten the game, keep their offense off the field, all that stuff, which worked incredibly well last year where they beat up Ohio State. The weather helps out a little bit there too. If it's going to be kind of sloppy or messy, that's going to definitely be an advantage for Michigan. The question is, though, when Michigan gets Ohio State and it's a decent weather day and they're all healthy with all their weapons, can Michigan match up on the perimeter? And then if Michigan were to get into the tournament against the teams you'd have to play in that environment, do they have the dudes on the outside to match up? That would be my question about them. Ohio State, though, this is a tough matchup for them, man. This is a very physical Michigan group they're getting ready to face.
Yeah, no, this is a very physical Michigan group. Look, I will be honest. I'll admit, I love watching Michigan play. I love their style of play. I love the physicality and toughness. Going all the way back to Harbaugh's days at Stanford, I'm just a believer in being able to beat people up at the line of scrimmage, and Michigan wants to play the game in a phone booth. That said, Ohio State is super talented, right? They have playmakers all over the field. We talk about their defensive line, their weapons in the secondary, Jim Knowles and what he's doing for their defense. But when it really comes down to it, to me, this contest is a matchup of the perimeter players of Ohio State versus the secondary of Michigan. Can the guys in the back end hold up? Because we could talk about Michigan being trench warriors and all that, but it matters little if they can't keep the ball from flying over the top of the defense. And so whoever has to deal with Marvin Harrison Jr. and some of the other playmakers that Ohio State puts out there, that is where the test and that's where the game will be won. So as much as I want to see this game live up to the old school football days, this was going to be a new school game where you have to play a little 7-on-7 to win if you're Michigan. And are the Wolverines good enough to win a 7-on-7 game against the Buckeyes and C.J. Stroud?
Yeah, and then you get to TCU, who right now is number 4. Man, they barely got by Baylor, last-second field goal. They win that ball game. Everybody's kind of said, it's Iowa State. They're not any good. TCU's going to roll on them. Matt Campbell's always got a trick up his sleeve, so I wouldn't totally put that one in the win column just yet, but they'll have a conference championship game the week after that, see if they can get into the tournament, and that is a team that plays just really, really good defense, physical, fast. They've got some playmakers on offense out on the perimeter as well. It's a fun team, but the one I want to focus on is the one that's near us, and that's USC, who's just outside right now. But I have a feeling, I think you probably agree, if they beat Notre Dame, they go on and were to beat Oregon or Washington, whoever they would face in the Pac-12 title game, I think they'll get into the tournament. And while we talk about quarterback and defensive line play, I don't think they have a big-time defensive line. They really don't have many defensive playmakers anywhere. They got Tui Pelotu, who's way up there in the sack department. He's a productive pass rusher, but that's it. He's kind of a one-man band on that defensive front. They're going to give up a bunch of points every time they play a good team. They're going to give up a bunch of points. But if they can get some turnovers, the offense is going to score on anybody because the quarterback, I don't know if you saw that game against UCLA, Buck, but that game from a quarterback in terms of big-time throws, I know PFF, they always kind of, you can get those cut-ups, you can watch those clips of what they determine big-time throws. I don't know the number they put on that one, but there were a number of ridiculous throws from Caleb Williams, and he gives them a shot to play anybody. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, he absolutely gives USC a puncher's chance. I think what we're going to find out from USC over the next maybe 2 or 3 games, we're going to see the Lincoln Riley effect, meaning can Lincoln Riley build a team that is built to win in the playoffs? Because we can talk about Notre Dame and we can talk about the up and down nature of their season, particularly early, but before they found their stride. But Notre Dame is going to test their physicality and toughness. And the one thing about USC in the past, when they played these heavyweight teams, they haven't been able to go toe-to-toe physically against those teams. So we'll see that. That's what Notre Dame will provide. When they have an opportunity to play in the championship game, and let's just assume that Oregon is going to be the team. It'll be another test when it comes to the physicality and toughness and discipline of the Ducks going against the Trojans, and can they match up with that? And if they do make their way to the playoffs, we've seen it year after year. you're talking about heavyweight champions in the playoffs. Teams that are big, fast, physical, and they have the ability, even though there may be a new school offense, to play old school football, where you got to stop the run and you got to make big plays and you got to put the pads on people and those things. And I just don't know if USC is built to play that way yet. Quarterback gives them a chance. I still don't know if stylistically USC is up to snuff in terms of being one of those bull in a china shop type teams.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good test. We're going to find out a lot about all these teams coming down the stretch. And I just get this feeling, man, you can see this playing out. 3 or 4 things need to happen. But Alabama, nobody's talking about them. They're just kind of lurking back there with their 2 losses. 2 losses, they're done. They're 2 nail-biter losses against good football teams. And now you look, man, if USC were to drop a game, they could drop a game or 2 here coming down the stretch in their final 2 games. TCU, you don't know what can happen with them. They can lose. You look at then Georgia, they beat LSU in the SEC championship game. Ohio State, Michigan, that could be kind of the debate would be, do you take the loser of the Ohio State-Michigan game versus Alabama? And I think Alabama's resume might stack up favorably against them. So you never count out Alabama of sneaking in this thing and messing it all up because they're fully capable of doing that. Any other college football thoughts you want to hit too, Buck, before we get out of here?
This is the best time of year, DJ. Like, I love rivalry week. I love watching these games. And we talked about college football and the pageantry and those things. But now we're about to see the football that we love. And not a Wolverine, but I'm be honest with you. I'm really excited to see Ohio State, Michigan, because having gone to one of those games, that rivalry is as intense as it gets. Woo! Should be a good one this weekend.
Well, there's so many good games. We laid them out, NFL-wise, college-wise, but the most important game of the weekend, for everybody that listens to this right now, we should all be in agreement on the most important game. That is Granada Hills Charter getting after Pacific Palisades to bring home the first CIF championship since what year, Buck, would that be, if you guys can pull this one off on Friday night?
If we're able to finish it off, it'll be first time since 1987. And so, long time coming, playing a great team, a team that's kind of had our number for a long time. So we'll see, man. We'll see if we've closed the gap at all. But it should be fun. The kids are really excited. We're really excited to have an opportunity to play for it. Heard from some great alums, including John Elway, our most distinguished alum. So it should be great. It'd be great to be able to finish it off and do it the right way.
I love it. Can Elway spring for some hats and T-shirts for this thing if we get this done? What do we got?
Hey, don't tell him. I'm working on it. I'm working on some stuff.
Now we're talking. Hey, best of luck, Buck. Again, we talked at the top of the show about how thankful we are for each other, for our whole Move the Six team, led by Nabil. They do a wonderful job of getting us up on the air every single time we do these podcasts. So it's really a wonderful group of people. We're very, very blessed and fortunate to work with. And we want to say thankful to you, the listeners, the watchers, the consumers of all of our Move the Six content. We appreciate it. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family, a lot of relaxation, and a lot of good football. We appreciate you very much, and we'll see you next time right here on Move the Six, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers.